Welcome to Marketing MASH, brought to you by themarketingscope.com.
I'm Eric Vidal. I'm the editor and chief content officer at The Marketing Scope. Today we have Daniel Newman, our host, our wonderful host. He's a speaker, writer, contributing writer for Forbes, Entrepreneur, and The Marketing Scope. He's also the CEO or co-CEO of V3 BroadSuite. And Shelly Kramer of V3 BroadSuite will also join us, and we'll go ahead and do an intro when she comes in. But today we have a special guest. It's a new friend of ours, and she comes from Dell, and that's Alison Herzog. She is the Director of Digital and Social Media. Welcome, Alison.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and
here.
Well, thank you. We're excited to have you. We want to hear all kinds of good stuff. And we'll go ahead and take questions too as they come in through the messenger piece. But Dan, jump in anytime. But I mean, my first question is, let's start from the beginning. I know you're new over there as well at Dell, but you've been doing digital and social for quite a few big companies and organizations over the last several years. But at Dell, how are you coming in, being new to the organization? How are you measuring success, and what kind of KPIs are you looking at here for the rest of the year or even next year?
So
when it comes to digital and social,
it's actually something that is one of our priorities right now. So my team's role is over global social strategy. We're looking at social in terms of social business, just not the media portion, and how it enhances product development, business development, customer care. The whole gamut, because what we believe is that the best marketing is a happy customer. And that means you're delivering something to your customer that they actually need, and that you're listening to them, you're responsive to them. And so that's what we're really trying to figure out, how we insert social into all facets of our business. And I think you're going to have Amy Heiss from Dell. She does the social media and community training on October 29th. And that is an amazing program that Dell has as well, because we really believe in embedding social throughout all pieces of our business. We want every employee engaged. It's really getting to that peer-to-peer impact of social. So in terms of measurement, it's simple and it's really complex. The mistake I think people make is that they look at just the basic likes, comments, and shares, and they think, okay, as long as I have more engagement, which translates, likes, comments, and shares, I'm doing really well. But what we care about from a business perspective is what we're trying to influence. And I think that's where people fall down, is defining what their goal is at the beginning, and then actually mapping KPIs to that outcome. And for us, that means we're trying to integrate systems, not just from the social engagement perspective, but also site traffic, how people are flowing, where they're engaging. We have nurture programs, tying all these different technologies. It's really important at Dell that we're technology agnostic, and that we focus on how we can really view each person and frankly get on a one-to-one relationship of getting to know people, so that we can deliver that personalized, that good relationship. It's nobody wants to be the friends with the person who is only interested in themselves. So KPIs, I don't know that there's a straight number I can give you, but it really comes down to tying technologies, but most importantly, tying your KPIs to business outcome.
Well, when you talked about,
I'm feeling the love, by the way. Look at all those.
I know.
You got to get all those feels.
I need that because I'm holding my phone.
But they all got little Dell things at the bottom. So I'm not counting them if I see the feels coming from Dell people. They don't count. That's like, no, I'm kidding.
Hey.
I
told you,
employees come online and actually give me feels, because it makes me
That's
feel
just
good.
Called ramping up your people. We're good at that.
All right. So Dell has one of the most notorious social listening kind of knocks, like an operating center. It was known for years ago. So you're mentioning data-driven, you're mentioning KPI, very, very interesting, very exciting stuff. You guys are doing the listening. What is sort of the platform behind the Dell? So you've got all this content, all this social. How are you guys actually tracking people on your sites, using it to create, meaningful leads and meaningful, I guess I'd say data that your sales force can use?
Now, are you asking about technologies, or how do we actually take what comes out of those technologies and turn it into something
I'm
tangible
starting,
or actionable?
Great question. I think just for the people to understand, you're a big enterprise, but what are the technologies that you guys are sort of deploying for listening, for marketing automation? If you can share anything you can share that is sort of talks a little bit about the technology that backs up your social and content platform. Then I would love to hear a little bit about the second thing you asked. But I love hearing about tools, because the thing is people make it work, but you have to have the right tools in place to start.
Yeah. We use, I mean, you name it. I think Dell has used it at some point. We're a huge company. And actually my group, I belong to the marketing technology group. We're very much focused on innovation, testing new things, certainly standardizing to a certain degree, but really trying to see, who solved something that nobody else has thought of yet. Like sometimes, so a company that I'll mention that I've worked with at my last company, my current company, is Sprinkler. And they are a company that I've been really happy with, because they have actually delivered product updates before it was something I knew I needed. So honestly, I mean, it gets really complex. And like I said, you could name a lot of like Eloquas or Salesforce. I mean, like probably you could check all of those boxes that we have used or are using.
What I think is interesting, Allison, and you mentioned Amy, your coworker. What I think is interesting, what you're doing at Dell is you're not just relying on the platforms to just let employees share or just the standard platforms. You're actually teaching your employees. What I want to know what happened, but I
think every time we do something, he's going to go for a run. So we should just do that same thing.
Yeah.
Every time. Yeah.
But what I think is interesting, what you're doing over there is you're educating your employees how to be social, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just wonderful, because once you teach them that's power. That's times 10 plus, right?
Yeah. So, and that is the piece of it, is we have employees doing, across the board, different types of tactical work, of strategic work. And if we don't empower them to be successful, then we're losing out on that piece, because we are so much smarter together than we are apart. And everybody has, in my opinion, there is no one right. There is no one truth. It is, everybody has their own experience in life that translates to business. That means I need to consider what all of my coworkers, what their thoughts are, what their experiences, both in their personal lives, their professional lives, have been, because that will add something to what we're designing to be a customer experience. And I know there's a lot of buzz around customer experience, but to me, that is something I am so invested in. My first job, 18, 19 years ago, was market research for Freshetta Pizza. And it kind of blows my mind that pizza is 18 years old. But at the time, I was so bored with having to ask the questions that you do with market research. And this is also so many years ago. Now digitally, it's such a different landscape. But then I worked in the hotel world for a while, also focused on customer experience. I've translated into digital. I've been doing digital and community a long time. And I just think that what it comes down to is experience. And if we have happy, engaged employees and we are leveraging their experience, if they are genuinely engaged at work, then we are so much more successful, and we are our own customer, if you think about it, at the same time.
Yeah.
So.
You made a really, really good point.
When you jumped out, we kind of, what I brought up when you were running to see the FedEx guy or the restaurant.
Actually, I left my dog outside, and I could hear him ready to attack and kill something. So that's the live Blab world.
Good call. Good call.
Jump back on, and
that's
I forgot.
That's what makes Blab fun.
I hear him, and I go, "Oh my god!" So
he's like feeding the man.
That's the live streaming world we're in. We do interviews. We also make our kids lunch and jump right back into it. So that's how it goes.
And that, what? Like, that's actually one of the reasons they are very emphatic on work-life balance, and they've been on the top 100 working mothers list over and over again. And so I work from home a lot of times, and anyways, go through those same scenarios. That was one reason I thought maybe I wouldn't do Blab from home, because then you'd hear my cute little kids,
don't even worry about
peeping through and wanting to be on the Blab. I should have put them on Blab. They would be smarter. They would be really good. We're
notorious for that, for doing that. This morning, we actually did a Cloud Talk chat, and one of my business partners, Brian Fanzo, actually had he was at the Periscope Summit in New York, and he was doing it at a coffee shop, and he had people coming by and what are you doing? And they're in the background. That's
Michael Stelzner, he does that all the time. He does Blab from wherever he happens to be. He was in the airport a couple days ago.
So that's kind of how it goes. So I think we're all good. So where were you going though? You were telling me what I missed, and then I started telling stories about the dog.
I just wanted to. You were talking about her favorite tools and technologies there at Dell, and I said one of the things that I know about the efforts they do at Dell is it's not just about the tools and technology, but they really train and educate their employees, which is just so wonderful to hear. I mean, you're teaching them how to be social, and which is just so powerful.
I think the worst thing, so at my last company, I actually piloted an enhanced workforce experience task force. And I just think one of the worst things you can do is go through the interview process, spend so much time trying to vet the people, that are candidates, hire them, and then give them policies that tell them that you don't trust them. To me, that's just what was the point? Why did you decide that person was smart enough to do the job you hired them for, but not trustworthy enough to represent your brand as a brand ambassador, if you will? So that's why I think we're so passionate about social media and community, and really, engaging and empowering our employees to participate in that, is because when we interview, when we vet those people, when we hire those people, we believe that they are smart, that they do have value, that we do trust them. And we want to make sure that they feel secure, that they don't think, oh my gosh, if I post on LinkedIn, if I tweet, if I post on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, Dell's going to come after me. They're going to fire me. They have to worry about the corporate, the throwdown or something, somebody throwing the hammer down. I don't know. That's a real fear. People are worried about if they do something wrong. And it's a fear we address in the trainings. People say well, I don't want to get put my job in jeopardy. And so we give them the tools, we give them the basic principles of what social media means to us and how we want them to engage, so they feel comfortable and they recognize that we believe in them and we want them to be part of our brand, of our company completely, not just for whatever one piece they were hired for, but holistically.
Yeah, you make me think of the Richard Branson quote I shared on LinkedIn. It says, clients do not come first, employees come first. If you take care of your employees, they will take care of your clients. And I think that's sort of it's a philosophical core of a company that gets employee advocacy, of a company that gets brand evangelism, and that the actual employee is the first customer. That's what I always say is our employees are our first customers. If your employees believe in the business, believe in what you do, they will tell your story. And I think Dell does a really admirable job of that. First of all, you see the little banners, and I made a little joke about that, everybody having the banner. But that's also kind of something saying, hey, I'm proud I work for Dell. I'm willing to be on Twitter. I'm on social, and here I am. And I want everybody that sees me in the stream to see who I work for. And I mean, that's a pretty amazing thing. And when you have 5 figures, more than 10,000 employees out there, that's really powerful. And I know it's probably way more than 10,000, but my point is, when you have a huge staff, I've always said that. I said, just imagine if a company like that, I know one of the other companies that uses the color blue has 434,000 employees. And I've always said, just imagine if just every piece of content, you could get half your company to just tweet at once, how powerful it would be.
Right? That's exactly it. You pay so much money to get your voice out there. It is a pay-to-play game in social media. Definitely need to have good content. But what if you actually had grassroots efforts of your people being that first? And also, if you think about trusted network, who are you going to trust? Are you going to trust a billboard? I mean, there's a place for that. You absolutely need to have that as part of your advertising mix. But if I have a running friend tell me that Mizuno's are the best running shoe and they just live and die by them, then I'm going to put a lot of stock in that, which is why I think it matters so much to think about that peer-to-peer connection.
Well, that's overwhelmingly the case. I think the data actually proves that
it does.
It's more than, it's 86 or 84%. I think it was a Nielsen study of us are influenced by a peer's recommendation more than any other type of content. And in a social world we live in, our tweets and our content is basically an endorsement. And we talked a little bit about this last week. We did a mashup about people sharing inaccurate content. And
especially when around news.
Yeah, but we got into
news jacking. Oh my god.
The dislike button, how everybody started talking about the dislike button and it wasn't even close to accurate. And so we were talking about that though. Basically, when you share something, you're endorsing it. Period. There's no way to share and not be endorsing, no matter how much you might say you're sharing and not endorsing. As soon as you put your name on something, unless you say I'm not endorsing this, you're endorsing it. I mean, so that's kind of interesting. Now, I wanted to spin into something that I think is really interesting that Dell is doing. So for over a year, I've done work for Dell in the content, and they've built basically an advocacy. They call it their Insights program. Some companies call it influencer marketing, but where they brought in a number of people that are, known for being able to move content in the cloud, data, mobility, business spaces. And you guys have built Power More, which is a brand journalism site. What do you think? Now you're coming in sort of fresh, with an outside perspective. What do you sort of think about brands as media companies and the utilization of, say, outside influencers or analysts and insights partners to sort of become the voice or a voice of a brand like Dell?
So there's so many ways I could answer that, but what I think about first is what drives me crazy, absolutely bonkers, is when a company is superficial. So as an example, for a brand to be successful as a publisher, they need to be providing content that actually has value, that isn't spammy, that isn't talking about themselves all the time. So I think it's very much possible. And I think we're seeing that trend happen where we're looking at brands moving to publishing, to owning their own publishing, but it can't talk about their own brand, their own product, whatever they're trying to drive towards, their own business model all of the time. I think they have to be relevant in the space. I think they have to be a good community member of whatever that vertical of business is to be successful, because otherwise they're going to put a lot of money, a lot of creative dollars, a lot of technology dollars into building something that people don't want to come to. And that's actually, Eric, this is, you and I just met at Integrated Marketing Summit in Minneapolis. And one of the slides I had was, from the movie Field of Dreams, which is, if you build it, they will come. And the reality is, that's not true. If you build it, that doesn't mean they will come, because first you have to prove out, do people, like my example was, well, what if you build it? Well, what if they don't play baseball? Like, what if they're allergic to the chalk dust on the baseball diamond? Like, there's so many things you have to have follow due diligence. So yeah, I actually do think brands can be successful as publishers, but it has to be dependent on if they're being good community members, if they are listening to the audience, if they are paying attention to what's relevant and how they can add value. I mean, Dell is a great example. We are a very large business. We also now like to refer to ourselves as the largest startup, because we went private about a year ago. So it's really a fun dynamic. It's really a fun place to be right now. And we have a very unique point of view that we can share with people, but we can also bring in others to share their point of view. And I think that's, to me, a collaborative approach is the most successful approach. And I'm sorry, now you have to remind me what the second question is, because I talked too long.
No, I don't know that there was necessarily two. It's just we talked about the external influence of having third
Oh, and
parties,
the second part was the people. Yeah. The actual insight partners.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that goes right back to the authenticity piece, right? So if a brand is hiring people who know their crap, if they're really, they are super smart in their area, their field of expertise, then a smart brand hires that person for that person's opinion, and not something where you feed them, hey, we need this product pushed. Can you kind of like mention it and hopefully like that'll work well for us? Yeah. Because guess what? People can sniff
bullshit.
Right? That.
I said it. You didn't.
We'll edit that, Allison. Don't worry.
No, we won't.
No, I'm kidding.
No filter. So
they can smell it out. They can totally smell it.
Looking,
it's like
I'm sorry.
Go
I was thinking transparency, right? I mean,
yes.
We're in the age of transparency. People cannot, you cannot be like, we do this work. And that's my first thing when I get called up by a brand like Dell, that I say to them is, I will write stories and I will create content topically related. The second you start to edit my content and you want to change what I'm saying to align with what you're trying to sell, it's over.
Yeah.
And I say it's not, trust me, I love the opportunity to earn and be a part of these great brands. But the minute I do that, that authenticity, that trust.
Well, and you have to protect your own reputation. You have to, as somebody who, you know, like, you have to protect what your value is to other companies. And if you are not authentic, if you are a shill, then that devalues your brand, your personal brand. And people, you know, like smart companies, once again, are not going to want to hire you.
That happened to me just not too long ago. So 3 weeks ago. And we're a media company. We were writing a best practice guide for an organization. I'll leave nameless, but we sent it to them. So
kind.
We sent it to them, and exactly what happened, kind of what Daniel had mentioned. They edited it, and they edited it. It was a little embarrassing, and so we just we tried to persuade them, and they were very set on it. So we said, well, then we're going to have to take our logo and everything off of this because we can't. It looks like a commercial piece. It looks really like a piece of collateral almost. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So
it's like a banner ad instead of what, you know, it's that push piece of not, you know, I don't know. I think a lot of times banner ads, once again, have their place. Really well done ones inspire you to click through. No. Never. But, you know, a lot of times they are just very push oriented and they don't seem like they're a touch point of customers, but a lot of times it feels like they're not connected to all the other pieces and they're not paying attention to what the customer, you know, what that pathway is. So I think that's an absolutely wise decision. From the brand perspective, I definitely say, and this is just an editorial perspective as well. I mean, my MBA internship was at Serious Seats in New York, and editorial content is how they make their money. They have to have awesome content for people to look at the site so they can get those ad revenue dollars. So brand, you know, protecting that reputation is important. And actually a good example is Kenji, who is their creative culinary director. They were doing a ramen part of the New York, Food and Wine Festival. They pulled that out because the Fat Jew was now inserted in, and they hadn't been consulted in that decision. And they felt that it was not somebody they wanted to partner with. So sometimes you have to yank out if you feel like it does not represent the brand you're trying to project, because it damages your value, and you have to be authentic. You have to be true to yourself to be successful.
I think that's a great point. And just because Robin asked in the stream, when the last time any of us clicked, I actually read a statistic. You are more likely to scale Mount Everest than click on a banner ad.
Well, actually, I think Everest sounds like fun, so that might be true.
So it might be fun, but very few people could actually scale it. I'm not just talking about trying to scale it. I'm actually saying
a couple dollars involved there. Training.
I'm saying you're more likely to accomplish it. So let's just think of it that way.
Yeah, that's good.
So here's something.
I will say Nordstrom is really good. They're one of the better companies I've seen do banner ads, and especially like where they kind of follow you around and try to motivate you to complete your purchase.
It is
hard. It's a hard science.
Their omni-channel marketing is extremely good. And you're talking really retargeting and marketing automation, whole different thing than programmatic ad buys on media sites and paid ads. And that's a really interesting question that because Dell has always had a pretty robust programmatic group. And I know you're in the social and content group, so this isn't necessarily your day-to-day is dealing with programmatic, but all the ad blockers that are going in, all the mobile use, which is really terrible for ads. What do you think? How are companies going to replace that as a vehicle for revenue or a vehicle for awareness when traditional ads are going to pretty soon be, let's not be fatalist, but vacated from our presence with a little bit of work?
So there's a great Ad Age article that was just posted this last week on that, how actually some of these mobile ad blockers are good for almost everyone. The title is almost identical to that. And literally what it comes back down to is, are we listening to people? Are we creating content that has value for people? Because if you think about it, society, we actually love ads. Think about the month of January. Think about the Super Bowl. People get really into it. I mean, Doritos has a huge thing around creating a competition around ads. I think the problem is, sometimes we get in the habit of we just need to push ads out so quickly that we haven't stopped to think about what is the strategy behind it, what is the value behind it for the customer, and so I think a lot of times you'll see companies as an example, create an ad for one place. I'll give an example of maybe they create a banner ad and then they're like, oh, but we need some advertising for Facebook and Twitter, et cetera. And they push out, they maybe crop the image or they resize the image. They throw one little thing on it and they're like, oh, this will work for the audience as well.
Yes.
That's not how it works. Like, once again, you have to decide like what is interesting? What is like, where is the story? Where is the value? We love storytelling. We love hooks. We love, I think, you see BuzzFeed, there's a lot of companies out there that have figured out how to listen to people or how to kind of jump on what's trending. And I think if we just did a better job of, honestly, I think listening is the most important thing, and reflecting what people are talking about and connecting our business with their needs or their interests, our ads would be actually clicked through, as opposed to just an image and say like, buy now.
Yeah. Alison,
my time's valuable. Like I got a lot of things going on. Like, I'd rather have my extra time for my family than clicking through some ads that seem meaningless and of zero value to me.
Yeah. Hey, Alison, early on during when I asked you about how you measure success and KPIs, you'd mentioned you're trying to actually influence certain messages. And then you mentioned nurturing programs. So, I know that you're the director and this is maybe somebody lower level that's doing this or at a different even group, but are you saying, or are you putting in links into the social to nurture people along, like in a marketing automation platform kind of perspective, where you're giving them a piece of information or education, like an ebook. And if they do that, if they click on that, then 2 days later, you'll follow up with something else that they might be interested in. So if you read this, you may be interested in this. So that kind of nurturing program.
Yeah, so we definitely have the nurture program. That's something we're working on right now. I literally had a meeting last week, same day, with the director who's over our nurture program, because we are talking through what does that look like? What is the best way to value, even down to, at the end of the day, I think, I joked about the Google thing, like Google your vows at the very beginning. But the reality is, I think it's 82% of kind of customer product purchases start with search. So anyways, the overall answer is it's something we're actively engaged in, that we're trying to figure out how everything integrates and hooks together. But we are, because I belong to the marketing technology group, it's something that we are involved in, and also our director of content strategy, where we're looking at that programmatic content piece, and how to bring people along. And to me, like it is a funnel, but at the end of the day, it's circular. Like, we want people to be customers, purchase something, be happy, become our advocates, and want to keep purchasing because it was such a good experience and such a good product. And so it's an interesting, there's so many different interesting comparisons that you can bring up in that regard.
No, it was nice. It was refreshing to hear a larger company doing that, because I know that sometimes it gets siloed. And I know a lot of smaller companies can do that, but the fact that you're providing education, you're nurturing people along that path.
It's massive. It really is massive.
and you, in your group now, you get a lot more intelligence, because I'm sure you have a dashboard and you're going to be able to look into this and see what people are doing, what they're kind of the path that they're taking, and being able to learn from it and then adjust and accommodate down the road. Right. And I think that's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, that's the most exciting thing about social to me, is that it's qualitative and quantitative. So, most people they tilt one way in terms of being left-brained or right-brained. I fall smack dab in the middle, that I am evenly right-brained and left-brained. And that's why I love social, because we can learn about people, but we can also measure it in an actionable and an impactful way. Sorry, go ahead, Daniel.
No, I was going to say, I have a question. I know we're coming into the bottom of the hour. Maybe we start wrapping this up, but I know Eric's likes lead gen a lot. I do too. And social and content are often accused of being too soft, not demand oriented. You know what I mean? Like the metrics.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Eyeballs, and the metrics are reads and likes and not leads. And companies want leads. What are some things that Dell is doing to convert this social and content efforts into leads? What are their most successful conversion methods of getting these people all this social and all this content they're creating to create market and sales qualified leads?
So Lead gen, I honestly think lead gen is so important to pretty much all businesses, because that's the conversion, that's the next step to conversion. And people are highly, they're hyper focused on that. My response is that we're definitely a piece of that. My perspective is that I don't like it when companies are overly focused on utilizing social for lead gen, because we get too in your face at people, talking at people when it's not done well, instead of focused on the overall health of the relationship. But I mean, in terms of lead gen, you definitely see things like everything's driving towards that conversion ultimately, because first of all, the first step is creating an awareness of your product or your brand, and people wanting to people respecting it, people feeling good about it, people thinking this is a company I want to do business with because they're ethical, or they have a product that is really notable. It's it works well, it accomplishes the job, it's innovative, all those types of things. Then it has to meet the requirements of whatever they're seeking out. They start doing that research. I'm both I'm both a brand that sells, but I'm also a consumer, and I frequently get pitched to. So I think through, in terms of lead gen, how would I want to be pitched to? And that comes down to the value piece. That's where you see the white papers. That's where you see infographics.
And I think that's what your nurturing program's doing. It sounds like, right? I mean, you're finding your way. This is my graphic. You're finding your way to the top of the funnel. You're just kind of coming in from the side, if you will, in a nice, soft, organic
social. Yeah.
But you can learn from it, and you can find out that some of the things you're doing through the nurturing program can be really powerful and work, and then some might not. Yeah. But I think that's one of the first steps, right?
Well, and I think also a big piece of that where social fits in is the social selling perspective, right? So if you want, so take an example of if you want to find a job, one of the things I advise people on when they're looking for a new position, new career, first of all, map out what your value system is so that you can find not just a job that like ticks those boxes, but also a company culture that reflects who you are, reflects what you care about. I will tell you, when I knew that I was getting ready to start looking, what I cared about was a company that valued diversity. That was very important to me, especially being an executive female who is in technology. That was very important to me, to have a company that valued that and that supports that. We have those programs for sure. Karen, our CMO, she speaks about it all the time. We have, programs that are developed specific to that cause at Dell. So that was important to me. It was important to have that work-life balance. There were a lot of things. So I looked at those things, mapped those out. But what you can do, and what I've advised others to do is figure out those companies that reflect those values, that have those positions that are open, and then start mapping out how you get there. What common connections do you have? Understand what those people care about and start positioning. You can publish through LinkedIn Publisher, you can tweet, you can create those common connections so you can get to that end game. And that's the same thing as social selling. It's creating a strong reputation after you've mapped out what the care abouts are for your end game. That's what it is. So to me, that's a huge part of lead gen, is the social selling piece, but being really strategic, once again, to always figuring out what are you trying to accomplish and then walking backwards from that.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think you can underestimate the importance of the tech and business intelligence that goes along with that too. I think that's a big thing for companies. Who's spending time on our sites and figuring out where they are and what pages are they looking at and what company. Because I think part of the problem with social selling is everybody does the same way they do physical selling. They just walk in the door and start throwing up on you.
Yeah, they don't do their research.
You have to do the research. The data's out there, and if you listen, pay attention, talk to people, eventually your value will come through. I choose to use publishing as my vehicle, writing content and getting people talking. And then you kind of go in for the proverbial kill when you see that right moment. And it's because you add mutual value, though. It's a new kind of kill where everybody eats, not just one. And
as long as it's a brownie, we're good. Something like low key, like a brownie.
I hope I'm in your tribe.
Yeah,
with ice cream on the top. So
I'll take a Diet Coke and a brownie any day of the week. We're good.
And that's health food, right? I mean, because you drank the Diet Coke, it's actually a healthy meal. Somehow we arrived. So no, I think that's it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Why don't we wrap this up for the recording? And then we can continue the conversation online. But guys, Thank you for your time. Alison Herzog, Director of Digital and Social at Dell. Thank you so much.
That's it for this episode of Marketing Mash. You can share your thoughts by following us on Twitter and Facebook. Subscribe to our podcast to keep up with the show. And of course, you can always find us by visiting themarketingscope.com.